Alright, it's Mike with TechBB.com. Today we have the excessive velocity loader. Now I guess what's happening with these is the stock black clock springs are breaking on everybody. Now luckily VLoader right away recognized the problem and are doing a good job on mailing out the new clock springs, which you can tell are white in color. Now by taking a look at these right off the bat, you can kind of feel some differences. The white almost feels like it's made of kind of like a Delrin material. The black is more of a stiff plastic. Don't know why these are breaking, but we can try. Still feels pretty pliable, but I'm going to show you really quickly how to take apart your velocity loader and replace the clock spring. Now, I mean, the excessive velocity did a really good job on these. They come with the rechargeable batteries, which is about my only gripe with the velocities is that they eat batteries like crazy. So we'll go ahead and take everything out of the box. Now the velocity loaders are pretty easy to take apart. Now, this is a brand new one, so you're gonna have to bear with me. What I do is go ahead and remove all of the screws, starting on the right hand side. Now, with the velocity loaders, there's one thing you have to be careful. All of the screws are almost exactly the same. They're all coarse threaded except for this one, the battery door screw. This one's actually machine thread, very fine thread. You only need to screw this out just far enough until you can pull your battery door, slide your battery door open. And don't unscrew this all the way, just leave it in there. I believe what they did was they kind of tapped the end of that screw somehow to where it won't go all the way past the nut. So you don't want to unscrew that all the way. So we got almost all the screws out on this side. Now on the velocity, you only have 3 different size screws on here. You have the short ones that hold the board in, and then you have the coarse threaded ones, the body screws, and then you have the battery cover screws. So there's only 3 different types of screws: long coarse thread, long fine thread, and short coarse thread. That's all you have in the velocity. So go ahead and open up the lid and pull it open. Now you have to be careful because your spring does go into the right hand side of the shell, so be very careful with your spring. Now when pulling out the velocity, the most important thing to be careful about is the button, your mode button. This is very easy to break off. This is very delicate, so please be very careful when you're working with your board to mind this little button there. I'm going to set that shell on the ground. Okay, now we see the old clock spring here. Now there's only one screw holding this in place, so go ahead and pull this out. Okay, there's the old drive spring. Now the old clock spring. Now while you're in here, if this is when you wanted to, people that want to replace their chips, that's actually the chip right there. If you ever wanted to replace it, put the Virtue chip in there, or the Gangstar chip. That's where it's actually at. Now how you do this is very simple. Just remove these 2 screws. Your board's going to come up and out of the way, and then you can very carefully, either using maybe a very small glasses, like an eyeglass screwdriver, you can kind of go underneath there and lift that chip up and then carefully put the new one in. But just wanted to show you that that's actually where the chip is at to replace. So you unscrew those 2 screws, flip the board over, there's the chip, you can pull it right out. Now that we have this apart, what I usually do is go ahead and put the this little washer here. Go ahead and put this in place first, and then set this down. Now this is kind of indexed here, so you want to make sure that this lines up properly so it slides down. Okay, so that's perfect in place. And then now on this piece, I don't know what you'd call this, but let's just call it the top cap. On the top cap, it's got a key mark also that lines up with the clock spring. So what I do is go ahead and put the screw in, and now you see there's Because what you got to do is you got to make sure that the tabs The fingers are actually underneath this cap here. There we go. Okay. Okay. It looks like that's installed properly. If not, we'll find out tomorrow. So now, like I said, be very careful of the button. Usually just put the button in place first. Now the battery wire has a slot already cut into your shell where you can put your battery wire into. So go ahead and put that in there first. Okay. Okay, now we need to put the spring in place. So set this aside. Let's go ahead and put the spring in place. Spring is in place. And then now there's a little hole on your lid that the end of that spring goes into. It doesn't go in front of it like it does on a halo. It actually goes into the lid. So you need to line there we go. And then just hold it. Line it up into the top piece. And then once it gets pretty close to lined up, immediately close the lid. Okay, now you just want to double check for pinched wires, which we don't have any. Okay, now usually what I do with the little piece of foam here that prevents your batteries from sliding around, which is a really good idea, is I put the piece of foam on the same side that my wires are coming into. There we go. Okay, so we got the wires out of the way, nothing's pinched. Let's go ahead and put the screws in. I'm going to put the screw in. These are tough. Alright, then we got usually the last screws I put in are the board screws. That's in. Alright, if we did that correctly, it works. Email me if you have any questions. Thank you.